Buying a car in America has always been a bit of a rite of passage. Whether you're scoring your first ride or finally upgrading that old, reliable minivan, the auto market plays a huge role in everyday life. But something has changed, something big, and that something is tariffs.
A 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
When you walk into a car dealership, the choices are dazzling, voice-activated SUVs, electric trucks, sedans that park themselves, and a whole lot more. But behind the tech and flashy design is something most people never consider. Where was your car actually made? Whether it's a Honda from Ohio or a BMW from Bavaria, the answer affects your wallet, thanks to the concept of tariffs. In this video, we're going to break down what these tariffs are all about, and most importantly, how they impact you as a consumer. Stick around, guys, and get ready to find out. To start with, the Trump administration imposes steep tariffs on imported vehicles and auto parts, setting off a domino effect across the entire automotive industry. The most eye-popping example? A staggering 104% tariff on all imports coming in from China. That includes cars too. That means a car that used to cost $30,000 could now cost over $60,000. And the ripple effects don't stop there. For a good number of people who aren't economists or policy gurus, it's only right to ask these questions. What do these auto tariffs actually mean for regular people? Are they about protecting American jobs? Punishing other countries? Or is this just politics playing out in the showroom where we shop for our next car? To answer that, we need to rewind a bit and look at what tariffs actually are. A tariff is essentially a tax placed on imported goods. Governments usually introduce tariffs for a few reasons, like shielding local industries, negotiating better trade deals, or collecting extra revenue. In Trump's case, the reasoning is clear. He believes foreign car makers have taken advantage of the American market for too long. According to him, countries like China and even close allies in Europe have sold their cars in the US without offering American companies the same opportunities overseas. In his words, they've ripped us off. His solution is to make imported cars more expensive so that American-made vehicles look more appealing by comparison. But trade policy is never simple. And in the real world, decisions like this tend to create more waves than calm. For starters, these tariffs are some of the largest the U.S. has imposed since the infamous Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act in the 1930s. That policy raised tariffs on hundreds of imported goods during the Great Depression, hoping to protect American businesses. Instead, it triggered a massive global trade war, with countries retaliating and trade slowing to a crawl. It's widely considered one of the reasons the Great Depression dragged on as long as it did. Fast forward nearly a century, and Trump's new round of tariffs is stirring up similar fears. The day after the new tariffs were announced, China responded with its own set of tariffs, some reaching up to 125% on U.S. exports. American automakers who sell cars in China are now bracing for big losses, and many U.S. farmers and manufacturers are being caught in the crossfire of this trade standoff. Back on American soil, the impact of the tariffs is being felt most clearly in showrooms. The new rules slap a 20% tariff on cars from the European Union, a 26% tariff on cars from India, and an astonishing 104% on those from China. On top of that, tariffs on imported auto parts are expected to kick in soon, possibly by early May. These increases aren't just paper changes, they're already changing what's showing up or not showing up in US dealerships. Popular brands like Audi and Volkswagen have pulled the plug on some of their US shipments. The reason is simple. If they go ahead and sell their vehicles at the new tariff-inflated prices, most buyers will walk away. And so, many foreign cars are stuck in warehouses overseas, waiting for the dust to settle or for negotiations to restart. Meanwhile, American dealerships are in a tough spot. Spring is usually a hot season for car sales, thanks to tax refunds and warmer weather, but this year, inventory is either shrinking or sitting idle. Some models, like the Dodge Charger and Challenger, are piling up on lots because people are holding off on buying. They're either waiting for prices to drop or simply can't afford the new costs brought on by the tariffs. It's not just foreign brands feeling the heat. American car makers like Ford, GM, and Tesla might see a short-term boost in interest, but they're not completely safe. Many of their vehicles rely on parts imported from other countries. If those parts get caught in the next wave of tariffs, the cost of building a made-in-America car will also go up, and then prices for those cars will rise too, creating a chain reaction that ends up with you paying more, no matter what badge is on the hood. Even the used car market, which many buyers turn to during uncertain times, isn't offering much relief. With fewer new cars available and prices for imports shooting up, people are swarming to the used car market. That increased demand is pushing prices higher and faster than anyone expected. Once affordable used models like the Toyota Camry or Honda Accord are now being snapped up in days, and at prices that would have seemed outrageous just a year ago. For example, a non-hybrid Toyota Camry listed at $26,420 last year now goes for $28,700. Honda Accord listed at $27,895 last year now goes for $28,295. Like we hinted earlier, one of the few groups that can benefit from this policy are the domestic car brands. U.S. automakers could enjoy a temporary advantage if more buyers shift toward domestic models. Brands like Ford or Chevrolet may find new customers who can no longer afford a Mercedes or BMW, and yes, the federal government will collect revenue from the new tariffs, but those small wins are overshadowed by the bigger picture: rising prices, declining inventory, and a confused, anxious consumer base. President Trump, as always, remains confident in his approach. At a recent Republican Party dinner, he reportedly declared, "Sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something." He said that while the response to the tariffs has been explosive, the money they're bringing in is flowing. He insists countries like China are dying to make a deal, but that their pride is getting in the way. China, for its part, fired back recently. Its foreign ministry called the U.S. approach economic bullying and substantially increased their tariff from the 34% levy. Trade negotiations between the two countries remain tense, and the chances of a quick resolution are slim. This whole situation has also sparked some serious debate across political, economic, and consumer circles. Supporters of the tariffs argue that it's a much-needed step to rebalance global trade. They believe that for too long, the U.S. has bent over backward for international automakers, allowing them to dominate American showrooms, while U.S. brands struggle abroad due to unfair regulations and trade barriers. For these advocates, the tariffs are not just about cars. They're about economic sovereignty. They see it as drawing a line in the sand, showing that the U.S. won't be pushed around anymore, but critics aren't buying it. Some economists warn that these tariffs are a short-term fix for a long-term issue, and they come with serious side effects. Sure, they might offer a quick boost to some domestic brands, but at what cost? The global auto industry is so interconnected that hurting one part of it often means hurting others too. Cars today are built with components sourced from all over the world. A wiring harness from Mexico, a transmission from Japan, a sensor from Germany. If tariffs hit any of these, the final price goes up no matter where the car is assembled. There's also concern about jobs. Ironically, while the tariffs are supposed to protect American workers, they could end up hurting them. If car sales drop due to rising prices, dealerships might cut back on staff. Factories that rely on imported parts may scale down or delay production, and suppliers, especially smaller ones, could find themselves squeezed by rising costs and shrinking demand. In the end, jobs could be lost on both sides of the supply chain. Then there's the geopolitical angle. Trade wars don't just happen in a vacuum, they shift alliances, disrupt partnerships, and sometimes even escalate into larger disputes. The auto tariffs are already making waves in the diplomatic circles. European leaders are threatening retaliatory measures of their own. China responded, demonstrating a firm stance against the escalating tariffs, placing an 84% tariff on all U.S. goods entering the country. Canada and Mexico are watching closely, with the former launching a 25% tariff on some of the vehicle imports from the U.S. If more countries decide to retaliate with tariffs of their own, it could spiral into a full-blown trade crisis. And let's not forget the environmental factor. A surprising twist in all of this is how the tariffs are affecting the electric vehicle market. Many EVs, especially affordable ones, are made or partially made overseas. Tariffs on these vehicles could slow down the adoption of cleaner transportation options in the US, at a time when the country is trying to reduce emissions and fight climate change. Some analysts fear that without affordable imports, the shift to EVs could stall or become something only very wealthy buyers can afford. So where does that leave the everyday American who just wants a decent car without breaking the bank? If you are car shopping right now, the situation is tough. Prices are climbing, incentives are shrinking, and your choices might be more limited than you expected. Deals that would have been considered average a year ago now look like steals. If you're trying to hold out for better prices, you might be waiting a while. And if you're hoping to get a good value on a used vehicle, you might have to act quickly, because the market is heating up fast. Maybe you're lucky and don't need a car anytime soon. Maybe your current vehicle is still going strong. If so, now is a good time to maintain it and treat it like an egg, if you know what I mean. But for many families, replacement isn't optional. Whether your lease is ending, your car broke down, or your needs have changed, you're stuck dealing with the consequences of an international economic battle. The truth is, no one knows how long this will last. Tariffs are easy to impose but hard to undo. Once they're in place, they become bargaining chips in high-stakes trade negotiations, and reversing them usually takes time and political will. Even if new trade deals are signed in the next year or two, the effects of these tariffs could linger for much longer. The dream of revitalizing American manufacturing is a good one, but building a thriving auto industry doesn't happen overnight. It requires investment, planning, skilled labor, and access to raw materials and parts. Tariffs might protect U.S. automakers in the short term, but they won't solve the deeper challenges facing the industry. In the meantime, Americans are left footing the bill. Whether it's through higher car payments, pricier repairs, or fewer choices at the dealership, the impact of Trump's tariffs is already showing up in the wallets of citizens. It's not just a policy debate in Washington anymore. It's a real, tangible shift that's reshaping one of the biggest markets in the country. Welcome to the new reality of car buying in America. It's not business as usual anymore. And unless there's a change in course soon, the road ahead looks more uncertain than ever. Do you think the tariffs are going to have a huge impact on the economy? We'd love to hear your response in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. See you in our next video.